Okay, hello. Um, so just to double check that the sound is working and I can be heard, Brianna, who is also sitting in, if you want to just let me know just to make sure that the sound is working okay. Awesome, sounds good. Okay, great. Um, Also to double check, is the PowerPoint, is that in view? Can you see the PowerPoint currently? Awesome. Okay, perfect. So, all right. So, welcome to the contest prep webinar. This is going to go over the new registration system that we are using this year, as well as just general contest prep, getting your students ready and prepared for the contest season. So, this is the registration system that the national office at NHG uses. If you've gone to nationals and had to register for that contest, you've used this system before. If not, this will be brand new. So I'm going to go through the basics of it, just some vital information, and then do a mock sort of the registration process. Also, in the emails that I sent out, there should be a packet attached that gives some directions with images on how to register. But first and foremost, both educators and students must register. Educators have to register before the students can. If your school is not listed when you go to register as an educator, just let me know. I can add it in. For group projects, each student must still register. You're not just registering for the project. Um, you have to register. Every single student for a group project has to register. They'll put in the project information and they can later link those with their other group members. There will be an option when students register to check off that they acknowledge that there is a $10 fee. This doesn't mean that they have to pay it or they have to pay it right then and there. This is just so that we know, that they know that it needs to be paid, but this can be paid later. Um, and so just like previous year's contests, that's something that you can do at contest. You can take care of that invoice there. So let's open up registration. Um, so as you can see, this has every single state, every single contest going on across the country. So what you will want to do is go to Indiana. And so you'll see all of the contests listed here. Let's just go to the Central Region contest. So if you are an educator, the easiest thing to do when you and your students are going to create an account, you'll see this create account section here. I think it gets a little bit confusing if you do this. We've had some people in the past have some issues there, so I think it's easier to go here. This way you can break it out based on, what you're registering under. So as a teacher, so we'll just do a fictional person. Um, um, all right, looks like the video went away. Is it back now? Awesome. Okay. So let me go back just to make sure so I didn't miss anything. So this is the registration page. So you will click on whichever contest you're registering for. Um, Go to create account. If you're a teacher, go to teacher here. And so You'll just start filling out this information. Say that you are not a robot. Okay. And so the only information that you have to input is a phone number and a password. I'll just do my number. Um, okay, I'm just putting that in the wrong section. So, all right, okay. And so here is where you can look for schools. Again, if it's not listed, just shoot me an email and I can add it in. So we'll just pick on one school there. You'll put what category it is. Um, Fill in the county that it's located and the number of students that you'll have. So again, not project numbers, but students. And then you just agree to all of these things. Go ahead and sign your life away. And so now this is in as a teacher. So when your students go in to register, then they will search by your name when they go to fill it out themselves. So let's go to, if you're a student, go here. So again, it's easier if you just go to the create account section up here in the corner. All right. And so here, you don't need any address information. If you're a student, you do not have to put in your phone number, anything like that, but you will need a parent or guardian email. So, and then they'll have to create a password as well. You want to make sure that it's something that they'll remember. All right. So then this is where they go in and they find that school. All right. And so this is where teachers have to register first because then they'll search for the teacher under there and then they'll select their grade. And so now this takes them to the section where they can fill out their project information. So and this is where they have the option to put if it is a group project, so they will click that if they are not working by themselves. If they have an electrical component and they need access to an outlet, they'll click that as well. And so we'll do exhibit. So this also gives them the option if they do a paper or if they do a website, they can add in that URL or upload the paper because again, papers and websites are going to be viewed by judges prior to the contest. And they can just do a little description. I don't know that it's necessary that they do that. And so really quickly, oh no, I forgot to mention that this is where they can choose an early or late judging time. This is pretty general right here. So if they have more specific needs, like it has to be, before 11, but after a certain time, if it's more specific than this, just again, send me an email. Um, And so here is where you review everything as a student, make sure that's okay. And here's that permission and waiver section that I was talking about. So then they sign their life away. And here's that section right there, just so they understand that there will be a $10 registration fee, which they don't have to worry about at this point. They will not have an entry ID when they first finish the registration. That will happen later once we have all of the projects sent in. And so then they're given their username as well. And so then if they are working with a partner or with other group members, those students will go back in and they'll put in that same project information and then they can link those up later. Okay. So hopefully that is pretty understandable. I've spoken to some people before, and they have said that it's a pretty smooth process, especially if you've taken kids to nationals and you've had to do that registration process. It shouldn't be too hard. Hopefully this will be more convenient too, because it adds a bit more responsibility on the students, and so the educators don't have to get all of that registration in themselves. They just have to register their own information, and then the rest is up to the students and parents. Registration deadlines for each contest are listed here. Northeast is February 3rd, Northwest is February 10th, South is February 17th, Central is February 24th. So these are all just essentially a little less than a week before the contest starts. Southwest and Southeast are back to back this year, so those deadlines are on the same day, which is March 2nd. IPS junior and senior, we are doing separate contests this year, but those registration deadlines are on the same day again, March 9th. State is April 10th, and nationals is May 19th. So now that I've gone through the registration process, this is a lot of information that is in that NHD guide, but we'll just go through it here. But this is just some general, these are some general tips on how to prepare your students for the contest. So first and foremost, if you or your students have any questions, be sure to reach out to us over here at the NHDI team. We are always more than happy to help. I will say that if you are or you have a student who is asking questions about a project last minute, it's not likely that we'll be able to get back in time. It's crazy for everyone, and so sometimes it might take a few days for us to get back. So make sure that if your students do have questions, that they are not getting those to us last minute, just because it's possible that we might not be able to respond to them in time. Here is a list of sample questions. So let's see, where was that? On that link. Now I can't find it. Preparing for your contest. Okay. Yeah, so these are sample questions. Um, I think it's a great idea to do some run throughs for the interview, do some mock interviews. This is obviously this is not going to be every single question that will be asked. Some of these may not be asked. Some questions that are not on this list might be asked, but this will give your students a good idea of what to expect in the interview. And I think it'll subdue some anxiety if they are terrified about the judging process. And one thing too that I like to stress, and I'll get more into judges later, is that this is a learning opportunity for the judges too. So the students get to be teachers for the day. They're the experts, so they're not going to get drilled by the judges on what they do and don't know. It's just an opportunity for them to share what they've learned. Um, so obviously it's important to make sure that you bring everything you need for the contest. Uh, so I think it's a good idea to make a checklist of what you need for the students to make a checklist. Uh, Obviously, you need your project, 4 copies of your process paper. So these contest sites do not have printers available for us to use. They might have printers, but not available for us to use. So it's important that you bring multiple copies, and you want to have one for each judge, and a spare one. So 4 copies are best, as well as your annotated bibliography. Make sure that if you're doing a performance that you have your props and costumes, trash bags for any sort of project. If you're doing an exhibit or you're doing a performance, that's a great way to protect your project from the weather, because we never know what's going to happen. I think it's a good idea to have a change of clothes if you're doing a performance, because you might not be very comfortable wearing your costume all day long. Any technical equipment is a really good idea. Any backups of your documentary. Again, just kind of like with the weather, we never know what's going to be thrown at us. So, something might happen where you can't access your documentary the way you had intended at the contest, your student can't. And so it's always a good idea to have multiple options for that. Some other tips. It's always a good idea to look over the location map for the contest site if this is available. Myself and Leslie, our volunteer coordinator, will make sure that this is accessible for everyone. So just it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the contest site. Go over directions. Consider how long it will take to get there, what time you need to be there. This is something definitely to share with students and parents, that it's a good idea to arrive a little bit early, just because you never know what traffic will be like, and know the parking situation. And so this is all information that we will provide everyone with, which areas they can park, which areas you cannot park in. And I think for the most part, our contest sites have fairly convenient parking. State will be a little bit complicated, but we will go into more detail about that as state contest approaches. Um, so things to keep in mind for a day of contest, like I said before, arrive early just to avoid any potential problems. You will go to registration first, where as a student, where you will receive your judging time and room number. This will be on a little white index card. If you're in a group and you get to registration and they don't have your card, it's important, that the students not freak out. It's likely that another group member got there first and got their registration card. So it's important that students check in with their group members. I know some teachers like to uh, take all of the cards for their class. That's perfectly fine with us. Especially if you have a large class and you have them all meeting you at a certain time. I think that's a great idea. It's kind of up to you as the educator how you want to do that. If you want to take those cards and pass them out, or if you want your students to come to registration, either are fine with us. Exhibits will typically be displayed in one or several rooms altogether. Um, so for that, there will be multiple judging groups in that area at the same time. Um, all other project types will occur in different rooms at their designated time. So exhibits is the only project type where you're going to have multiple sets of judging groups in an area at the same time. For exhibits and papers, no one is allowed in the area unless they are judging or being judged during the current time slot. Exhibits will be open to the public once judging is done. That will be on the schedule, but no one else is to be in that area until judging has finished. And then there will be about an hour to view those exhibits. For websites, documentaries, and performances, people are welcome in the room, so parents can come and watch students. If teachers, if you have a student or a group that you want to watch, you are more than welcome to. Other students can watch their peers. We just stress to not disrupt others, not to come in and out during the interview. If you can see through the window that judging has already started, don't go in. Also, we want to stress that those areas near the judging rooms stay as quiet as possible. Um, Sometimes people, there are a lot of emotions going on that day. People tend to get pretty excited. And if they're lingering near those judging rooms and they get really excited and loud, it can be really distracting for the judges and the students who are being judged. It's also important that students pay attention to their judging time. You have quite a bit of freedom throughout the day when you're not being judged. And, depending upon the building size, you might wander pretty far, but it's important for students to be near their judging room as the time approaches. So judges, who are they? First and foremost, they're people. They are not scary. At least we haven't encountered any scary ones yet. They are really, really excited to be there. They're volunteering their time. They're doing this because they want to do it. Judges might be historians, teachers, lawyers, college students, anyone really who has a strong passion for learning and helping these students out. Even though they're judging the project, they are there to learn too. And so they're not there to test your expertise on the subject. They're not going to be drilling these students. They are there to just speak with them, figure out what they've learned, learn about their research process, and follow that rubric. So this isn't like an opportunity to quiz students on their trivia knowledge on their topic. And it's also not an opportunity for judges to show off their trivia knowledge on the topic. The judging process. So when the judging time begins for a student, it's important that they introduce themselves, greet the judge professionally, shake hands, make sure that your students have their process paper and annotated bibliography with them for their judging time. They will immediately present those to the judges, then present the project. It's important for the students, to be enthusiastic, to show that they are interested in doing this, that they are excited to be there and passionate about their projects. It's okay, to show their excitement. There's no need to, try and act super professional. I know this can be a really nerve-wracking experience for some students, but the judges are not there to judge you on how nervous you're not appearing. So it's just be genuine, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So when the judges are ready, they'll conduct the interview. And this is kind of judge dependent. Some judges like to look over the project first. Some like to read the annotated bibliography and process paper first. Some of them like to hold off until they go back to their rooms. It really depends. So I would say you know, students do that introductory part, give them your information, and then just kind of let them guide the judges guide the rest of the process. So when they do the interview, some important things to keep in mind for the students is to be honest. If a student doesn't know an answer to a question, that's totally fine. Um, just say, something like, I'm not sure about that, but I do know, and give some information, or say, it's something that you will look into. The students aren't going to have every bit of information um, figured out for this project. So it's okay if they miss something, unless it's a huge, huge component to that project and it's obvious, that there's some research lacking, but they're not going to know every single thing. So if they don't know, it's okay for them to be honest. They should be. When they're asked questions during the interview, it's important that they don't say just yes or no, but to elaborate on that. Um, and if they're working in groups, it's really important that each group member has the chance to speak. If not, that makes it seem like the work was not done equally. If you have a group member who is just standing there, it's impossible for the judges to tell if that person's not speaking because they didn't do anything or because they just don't like presenting. They don't know that. It could easily come across as, that person didn't do any work. So make sure everyone has the opportunity to share something. Also, it's important for the students to thank the judges at the end, shake hands, and most importantly, have fun. And they should be proud of themselves. No matter what happens at the end of the contest, they have accomplished something pretty big. Um, so I showed those sample judging questions before. These are just some that I think are uh, used pretty frequently and that I know that when I've judged in the past, these are some that I really like to go to. And again, I think these illustrate how this is not a moment where judges are going to drill the students on their knowledge. It's really just about digging into that curiosity that they have about the research project. So questions like, what was your most important source? Um, what surprised you most about your research? What was the most difficult part of your research? If the students have really done their work, these shouldn't be difficult for them to answer. It's really just an opportunity for the students to talk about their research process and what was easy for them, any obstacles they faced, what they found most interesting. I think this is also an opportunity for the judges to kind of figure out granted, you'll see in the thesis statement what the students think is important in relationship to this topic, but I think these questions are also a good opportunity for judges to dig a little deeper into what the students find most interesting or most important about this topic. Um, a tip for this last question here, some judges will ask if you can go back and change one thing about your project, what would it be? It's important that the students never say nothing. There's always room for improvement. If a student says nothing, I think this is perfect just the way it is, that's not going to send a good message because there is always something that you can work on, especially at the regional level. These projects are still, works in process. Here is a sample of the judging criteria sheet that the judges will have. So the main things that they are looking at are historical accuracy, analysis and interpretation, historical context. Um, they're looking to see that the students use a wide variety of research, that they use available primary sources. Not every topic is going to have as many primary sources available as others, but they need to have done, a legitimate job at trying to find primary sources. They're looking to see that the research is balanced. Um, Again, that kind of plays into this wide research and using available sources. A project that is nothing but secondary sources, that's not balanced research. They want to make sure that this relates to the theme of breaking barriers, that it demonstrates significance, draws conclusions. And then for each specific projects, there will be different guidelines. Um, and so the significance is something that's really important too. And if there's anything that gets overlooked in projects from year to year, it would definitely be the significance portion. So I would urge you to really, and not that anyone doesn't do this, but stress to your students that, you know, thinking about why these topics matter today is crucial to NHDI. And last but not least, here is a link to the NHDI guide, which has most of this information, pretty much everything that I had stated. Um, so this has worksheets, it has the special prizes that are available, it talks about the theme, um, it has worksheets, lesson plans on how to plan for your project and how to develop your thesis statement, how to conduct research. It also has all of this preparation information at the very end, some additional tips for success, how to make a project, how to take a project from good to great. And so I think that is all I have. And I don't believe that there will be any questions unless Brianna has a question. So I think we're just going to end this a little bit early. But if you are not, we're not currently present, but you look back on this, the recording later, and you have any additional questions, feel free to email me, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. All right. Well, thank you.